Okay, so first we've got to do an outfit check because I just got my the main fall merch drop in the mail today, and I put this on and it felt like a warm hug, and suddenly my mental health was magically better. Hello, hi, long time no see. I don't know why I'm filming this. I literally just canceled my Wondershare Filmora subscription, but here we are anyway. It's Monday, October 25th, which means that October ends on Sunday on the 31st on Halloween, and I have not really read anything in about 2.5 weeks. I legitimately have just been in a really shitty life slump, depressive episode one might say. Nothing really brings me joy outside of just putting on my headphones and listening to music, and that has been what is getting me through these days. I just wanted to be transparent with you guys because everyone, I feel like, is going through some mental health shit right now, and the more we can talk about it and normalize it, I feel like the more people will be able to more quickly heal from whatever they're going through. So yeah, here we are. You are catching me on perhaps one of the better days. It's Monday, I got my merch in the mail, feeling a little cozy even though it's hot as hell outside, but feeling a little better. I'm hoping that this can be a reading vlog, and that by the end of this reading vlog, at the very end of the week, I can do the Undas book tag, which is a book tag created by Your Tita Kate. I will link it down below in case you're interested in it. I was tagged by the wonderful Kate, but I filmed it and I hated it, and so we're gonna try and refilm it and just kind of get back onto the wagon. I also just did all of my journal spreads for November off camera just because I have not been feeling very creative recently, and I didn't want the pressure of making something for content and, you know, making something that I was not particularly 100% proud of, but then putting on my channel and hoping that you guys watch it. Like, I don't think that's fair, or just that I want out there. So I made some really ugly spreads that I'm not super proud of, but you know, I need them for all of the tracking and journaling that I do, so they're there. Just won't be showing you guys this month. I'm sorry about that if you're anticipating that. As for reading, I'm currently in the middle of 5 books. I started Zero Sum Game by S.L. Huang, and I was super anticipating this. I was really anticipating this because I really loved The Burning Roses by S.L. Huang, which is a retelling of a bunch of Western and Eastern mythologies put together. That was just super beautiful. It's a novella released last year, I believe. Anyway, I loved it, so I was like, okay, S.L. Huang has a adult fantasy sort of action thriller thing. I should give it a try. It's apparently very math-based, so I was like, oh, okay, math is my bread and butter. If it's also S.L. Huang's bread and butter, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. But unfortunately, I'm not really enjoying it. You hit the ground running, which is kind of nice, especially for a thriller, but it's just reading very girl boss, gaslight, gatekeep. Would like a lot more detail on what's going on than what I'm getting, and the pacing is just a little too fast for me, so I got literally 100 pages in maybe 2 weeks ago, and then I just stopped reading it. And then I picked up The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, which, if you didn't know, is my partner's favorite book of all time, and he's been begging me to read it for the longest time, and I picked it up. And it is interesting at first, but I only got 40 pages in. The way that the indigenous peoples are talked about in this book made me very uncomfortable, especially after reading Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse. I was just like, that's not the vibe. This is not the vibe. And I know that this book is more than that, but for there to already be like this anti-indigenous rhetoric, it was hard for me to get through. So I am going to try and pick this up and see if I can get past that. I will still give this a try. I'm not going to DNF it quite yet. I also got in the mood and I started For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, which is a Red Riding Hood retelling. Kate talked about it in her Undas book tag, and it was on my physical TBR, and I was in the mood for something super atmospheric and not too like plot heavy, I guess. Something about Kate's description of the book really caught my eye, so I picked this up, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm 100 pages in, I just haven't had like the motivation to pick up a book, but I feel like if I am going to pick up a book this week, it is going to be For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. I don't really know or understand 100% of what's going on, but I'm vibing with it, and that's all that really matters. So yeah, I am very much enjoying this so far and hope to dive into this once more. And then we went to the beach on Sunday, and I didn't bring a book for some reason, but I was actually kind of in the mood to read. And so we stopped by the bookstore. I was looking for a few books. They didn't have it in stock. Bookstores on this island are honestly a travesty in my opinion. They never stock anything. They did, however, have a copy of Aisha at Last, which has been on my TBR for forever. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling featuring two Muslim main characters. I got 50 pages in. My dog was being a little brat, and he has black fur, so when he's in the sun for a really long time, he like pretty much just catches fire. He gets super warm, and I had to keep my eye on him because he kept wanting to like sunbathe, but he overheats really easily, so I would have to like put my book down after 5 pages and then drag him back into the shade, and then he would go back into the sun. It was a whole to-do, so I didn't get very far into this, but I am really enjoying it so far. Yeah, hopefully by the end of this vlog, I have finished all of these books. I've got a week. No promises. Okay, before we jump into it, I just want to say this is my new CD player. It's like 12 years old and I got it secondhand, but it's new to me. His name is Bodhi and I fucking love him. Okay, hi, this is take 3. It's November 1st and unfortunately I did not check in for the reading vlog at all. I just had a bad mental health week. We won't go into it, but I was just not in the mindset to be able to talk to a camera, at least in like logically it would have just been a mess. Since I only read 11 books last month, I thought that not only could I wrap up the reading vlog by telling you what I did read last week, but I could also just do a wrap-ups because hypothetically this video shouldn't be too long. But overall, I just want to say that October was technically a really good reading month for me. I did read less books than I usually do in a month. However, I had an extremely high average rating for all of the books that I read, so it was technically a really good reading month. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I read a lot of books from Orbit, maybe it's because I was just there for the vibes. There are 2 books that I mentioned in the earlier clip that I did not finish, and I just want to mention those and get those out of the way first. The first one being The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. It didn't vibe with me at the very beginning. Again, the comment about the savages just really kind of made me uncomfortable. I work with a lot of anti-Indigenous rhetoric already, so it's like to come home and to spend time with a book that just opens up with that was not really, it was not the vibe. So I need to like give this another try another time when I am maybe not so deeply embroiled in working for Indigenous rights. Which is to say, I'm not DNFing this, I am just putting it aside. Also, if you hear the AC going on, it's going on. I just said fuck it, I am dying of sweating and the heat, so you're gonna have to deal with the AC noise. And with that out of the way, we're going to go into the wrap-up. So the first 2 books that I read in October were The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun. This is the Dream Blood Duology by N.K. Jemisin, and I honestly, you guys, loved this more than the Broken Earth trilogy, which I know is sacrilege, but hear me out. First of all, I won't describe what the series is about for the most part. I think you should go in completely blind. You will get like 50% of the way through The Killing Moon and not understand anything that's going on, but the last half of the book makes total sense if you pay attention enough in the first half of the book, which is kind of the same vibes as the Broken Earth trilogy. Like the first book doesn't make sense for most of the book until the very end, and then you're just like, that's what happened in The Killing Moon. But The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun are so much more, I feel like, atmospheric, and the vibes are just so beautiful. The concept of kind of reaping dreams for this god system, I don't really know how to explain it without spoiling it, but one of the main characters, what he does is when people pass away, he collects their souls and their dreams, and that power goes to the gods. That has a lot of connotations to it. There are evil beings at the foot, and all of these plots that are going on simultaneously with him just trying to do his job. And like I said, the vibes are just really immaculate. The writing is beautiful. All of the characters are so beautiful and fleshed out. In The Shadowed Sun, there's a romance that I didn't know I needed so badly in my life, but I am so happy that I did read this book and I got to experience this romance because I still think about them today. I would really highly recommend checking out the trigger warnings for these books before you jump into them, because there is a lot that can be really harmful or triggering to you. So I personally learned that there are body parts that can be broken that I didn't know could be broken before. If you've read the second book, you probably know what I'm talking about. I absolutely adored this duology. It's honestly my favorite works by M.K. Jemisin now, so what a great way to kick off the month. I think that the order of the books read last month got mixed up in my pile, but I'm pretty sure the next book I finished was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, and oh my god, if I wasn't blown away by the Dreamblood duology, I was absolutely blown away by this. So Black Sun follows 3 different characters, 3 different point of views. All 3 of the main characters come from peoples that are inspired by pre-Columbian Native American tribes. In particular, there's a character named Ziala who is from a people called the Teak, and they are islanders who use pretty much Polynesian / ancient Hawaiian wayfinding to dominate the seas. And if you didn't know, I live in Hawaii. Obviously, wayfinding is a huge part of the Native Hawaiian culture, and so when this book had little bits of wayfinding in it, I'm not Native Hawaiian, but it made me cry because it was just so beautiful to see that representation on page. I personally have never seen really good, like, ancient Polynesian, ancient Hawaiian representation in fantasy, and this was oh, it's so good. Like, I literally have the scenes tabbed, but I was like on the floor, goofy smiling, just totally enjoying myself. The book overall is really beautiful. It's definitely a lot of political machinations that come together so that the 3 point of views really thread together and make sense. But overall, just the vibes, the characterization, the world building, everything is beautiful, and I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. And then the next book that I read was a buddy read with Justine from Miranda Monologues and Veronica from Moon and Coffee Books / Wilder Moonlights. She changed her Instagram. I'll link all of that down below. But we do a monthly buddy read essentially, and we chose She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan for our buddy read last month. This is pitched as a fantasy retelling of the rise of the Ming Dynasty, using a female character masquerading as a male warrior. I'll just get this out right now. I did not enjoy this. I do understand how other people have enjoyed it. I do see that, but I don't know enough about Chinese history. I didn't really connect with any of the characters or really enjoy the characterization or really enjoy the plot overall. At first I was enjoying myself because it really read like a Chinese classic translated. Like, I read The Romance of the Four Kingdoms and I really enjoyed that. But as a fantasy retelling, I wanted a lot more from this book than what I got. So that might be a mistake on my part, like expecting more out of the fantasy element in this book. But I totally understand you if you did love this. The next book I read as sort of a buddy read with Justine was The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. This is a really short, fun book. Well, this is a really short but very spooky book that follows Jake as he's kind of like a medium. He's a medium who can see ghosts, and it really fucks him up. Like, it sucks to see ghosts all the time. Like, when you fall asleep, when you're just walking around, that must be terrifying. Like, I totally got the anxiety that he had. And this book, like, outside of the spooky plot that carried the story, some of the spooky scenes, like when he's dreaming, I had nightmares about. Like, I got properly spooked by this book, and I really appreciated that. Like, I don't know, I haven't read, honestly, a lot of horror, thriller, mystery, crime novels that, like, in general, and thus I have not read a lot of books that have properly spooked me, but there are, like, scenes that I've tabbed in here that just, they made me poop myself a little. I feel like for being as short as it is, it delves into a lot of really great topics and conversations. So if you're interested at all, pick this up. It's queer, it's spooky, it says a lot of great things. You can't go wrong. Oh, ooh. So, the next book that I read is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I don't know why I didn't hold up the book when I said that. Look at the tabs. Look at the tabs. This is hands down my favorite book of the Sapphic Trifecta, and possibly one of my favorite reads of the entire year. This hits all of the check boxes for me when it comes to adult fantasy. There's a lot of political intrigue, there's fantastic world building, there's a magic system that that's not explained explicitly and is sort of shown throughout the book. There's a queer romance, a sapphic romance that I think about Malini and Priya often. So many things. There was not one thing that I didn't like about this book. Chef's kiss. In case you missed it, this is the last of the Sapphic Trifecta. It follows a Princess Malini after she is imprisoned because her brother is a jerk and doesn't want her to threaten his claim to the throne. And then we're also following Priya, who is the orphaned daughter of this temple, and she's just trying to make ends meet. Honestly, she's just a servant trying to live her life. But when Malini is imprisoned in the temple that she used to work at, it's a very precariously placed and designed temple, so only people like Priya, who understand how the temple works and have this connection to the temple, can really safely navigate the temple. Priya works for essentially Malini's prison keepers, and they connect, romance and escape plots ensue, and it's a fucking fantastic time. There's so many layers to this story and so many things going on, but I think it was handled really well. There's more than just Malini and Priya's two point of views. I think that, like, as the story progresses, Tasha Suri does a fantastic job of bringing in other point of views to show how widespread the effects of all of the political complexity and how it affects, like, pretty much everyone. So yeah, I highly recommend this as well. I think about Malini and Priya so often. After that, I got into a bit of a reading slump. Not really like a reading slump exactly, but more like a life slump. She was just not having it. So I sort of kind of not really ditched my TBR, and I skipped all of my BIPOC authored Orbit books for Hannah Witton's For the Wolf, just because Kate from Your Tita Kate had posted a blog post at some point during October and talked about how this book was just atmospheric and beautiful. Like, you might not understand what the hell's going on. That's perfectly fine, because the book is written well enough that you can just vibe. And at that point, my mental health was just so freaking shot that I needed to vibe. So I picked this up and it did the trick. It took me a while to get through it just because I was going through something. I still am, but it really helped me continue to read through that slump, because every now and then I'd just be like, oh, I just want to vibe. So this book was perfect. This is a sort of Red Riding Hood retelling where the main character, Red, is sent away to a forest because she is, like, promised to a wolf that lives in the forest. The forest is evil, it can attack you, and but it's a lot more than that. That's just like the surface. Throughout the book, we find out that there is a lot more afoot than these girls have been told their entire lives, which I think was really cool. I don't 100% understand everything that happened or the lore or the world building at all, but I 100% like understand the vibe. The vibe, immaculate. Eamon and Red, I ship it. I love that. I was in the freaking fattest mood for that. Again, I was imagining Ryan Potter as Eamon, but I digress. Really enjoyed this. I highly recommend it. I can't wait for the sequel to come out, because the way that this ended, I was like, no, you cannot end like that without giving me the second book right now. Ooh, I really enjoyed this as well. I highly recommend it if you're book in a vibe. The next book and the last book that I read that was on my TBR was a slog to get through. I started it like 3 or 4 weeks ago and I just got 100 pages in, was not vibing, and then I just told myself I'm going to read it, and that book is Zero Sum Game by S.L. Huang. So this is supposed to be a fun mathematical thriller. Essentially follow this girl named Cass Russell who is hired to save someone, but learns later on that the person that she was trying to save is not a good person, and there's all of this other stuff going on with like this evil force called, what is it even called? Anyway, I don't care enough to yeah, this was not it. First of all, when you tell me mathematical thriller, I expected equations. I wanted derivations. I wanted to see the derivations that Cass was doing in her head to calculate all of the physics of the action scenes. I wanted that. I think that it's totally possible. And I think that people who know and enjoy math, like me, would enjoy that in a book. Got a math degree from MIT and is a weapons expert and a professional stunt woman, is perfectly capable of writing that into this book. Fortunately, I didn't get that, so I was very disappointed with that. Overall, the writing is not fantastic. It's very quippy and girl bossy, and I was not vibing with that. And then there's this weird part where like one of the main characters, he's like in it sporadically. His name is Rio, and then it's revealed at some point that he's Filipino only because he says something in Tagalog. But when I posted what he said in Tagalog to Twitter, and I'll post a little part right here, everyone was like, what the hell is he saying? Essentially the term translates into I have faith in your teapot. Thank you, Kath from Laguna Bay Fables, for translating that for me. And that's not something that Filipinos say. Like, everyone looked at that saying and was like, huh? Is that Tagalog? Are you sure? The reason for the confusion stems from the fact that this is an English saying that has been translated into Tagalog to make the Filipino character Filipino, which was really unnecessary. As a bit of explanation, she says, I believe in your teapot, as a reference to Russell's teapot, which is a philosophical argument often used to debate the existence of God, which was really weird, especially given the fact that this character's only other personality trait besides being like a hired assassin is that he's a very devout person. So it was just really weird and unsettling for me to see that kind of representation. Overall, not it. It's just not it. You guys can skip this one. I'll save you the time. Skip it. So then I kind of veered off track from my TBR. We went to the beach a couple weekends ago and I forgot to bring a book. So we went to the bookstore that was right next to the beach, and I went there looking for a couple of new books, specifically Mona Awad's All's Well, and then Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, but they didn't have either of those because that bookstore is just not good for any new releases. But miraculously, even though they primarily only stock books by white authors, they did have Aisha at Last by Uzma Jalaluddin, which is a book that I've been wanting to read for a really freaking long time, and I've had it like a Kindle copy on my Kindle for the longest time. I just haven't, like, I don't use my Kindle very much. So when I saw this, I was like, huh, didn't expect to see this here, but also I'm down. I ended up loving this. So this is a Pride and Prejudice modern day retelling with 2 Muslim main characters set in Canada. Khalid is the male lead who's supposed to be Mr. Darcy. He is very outwardly religious. He's a fundy, as Aisha calls him. And then Aisha is older. She works as a teacher. She is not conforming to the traditional South Asian Muslim path of life. And their paths meet. There's mistaken identity trope, and I love this. If you're chismosa like me, you're gonna love this. The last 50% I would say is just like pure chismosa shit. Like the good part about Pride and Prejudice, in my opinion, is that it's, you know, a book about going to other people's houses, but there's a lot of like gossipy chismosa shit going on. This is even better with the gossipy chismosa shit. I really enjoyed this for the the Chismosa shit. I highly recommend it. The last book that I read in October was In the Watchful City. I forgot to ask my partner how to pronounce this author's name, so I'm not going to say it and butcher it. I will just leave it here on the screen so you can Google it if you'd like. Thank you to Tor.com for sending me a finished copy. This released in August of this year, and I just now got around to it because, if you didn't know, the theme for my reads in October was books that were published by Orbit Books or Tor/Tor.com, and I called it Orbit Torber. And so yeah, this was a short read that I have been really wanting to get to because it is short and because I have heard really good things about it. I don't know that I can really explain what goes on in this book, just because I was there for the vibes. The vibes are immaculate, but I didn't really understand like the specifics of how the world worked. I'm still trying to work through it. I finished this yesterday and I just kind of sat there and tried to let it sink all in. Still working through the details. One thing that I will say that I really liked about this book is that there's a main story and we follow these two characters as they meet and have these conversations, and one of the characters throughout their conversations tells the other character short stories that I think were just absolutely beautiful. So if you didn't know, one of my favorite books of all time is Each of Us a Desert by Mark Oshiro, and one of the things that Each of Us a Desert does, as well as In the City does, is it breaks up the main story with short stories that are relevant to the plot in their messages, but they take place in completely different times or with different casts and whatnot. And I think that's really powerful, just to take a break but be able to say things relevant to the plot. The storytelling in this novella for these short stories was just as beautiful as Each of Us a Desert, so I really appreciated that. There's some prose in here as well that I honestly made me tear up a little. It's really beautiful, and yeah, I really enjoyed that overall. Again, I don't know if I can say I understood most of the book, which is not to say that it's bad. It's just that I can't make sense of it to really give it the full 5-star rating, so I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. But I highly recommend it. It's a sort of quick but beautiful read that features non-binary characters and queer relationships and just beautiful writing overall. I think the last time I did a wrap-up was for last October, for when I read like 20 plus books, and that wasn't as bad, only having read 11 books. But yeah, those are my thoughts. If you could walk away with a book recommendation from this video, I would pick up either The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri or Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse. Like, I loved a lot of the books that I read last month, but these are the two books that I can like wholeheartedly recommend to literally everyone who just likes to read a good book. Yeah, 2 of my new favorite books of all time. Go read these. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.